Wuthering Waves 1.0 is garbage. It is terrible. It is absolutely horrendous. It is the worst. It is so bad. It's so bad. It killed my dog. It dragged me into an alleyway, busted out my kneecaps, and called me a bad boy. Or at least, that's the impression that I got from its reputation on the general internet, Reddit, and even in my own comment sections. A lot of people saying Wuthering Waves 1.0 it's rough, it's terrible, it's just not good. Okay, it is really bad. They're just like, please, bear with it. It gets good later, right? Just skip through the story if you need to. I've had some people say that to skip through at least to 1.3, right? Well, I recently finished Wuthering Waves, the 1.0 patch. And in this video, I'm going to tell you my thoughts on it. If you want the TLDR, for those of you who don't want to listen to me yap about all the different points that I have, right? If you want the TLDR is basically, it's honestly, yes, it's not great, okay? But I don't think it deserves I don't think it deserves quite how bad its own reputation is. It does not deserve just how bad its reputation is, but it is still, admittedly, not the best. However, it's not much worse than any other gacha game prologue I have played. Not that much worse than any other 1.0 patch, if I'm being honest. It is a little bit worse, but not by much. That would be the TLDR. If that's all you care about, then thank you for making it, like, I don't know, 2 minutes into this video. I appreciate you the same. Okay, but if you want to hear my entire thoughts, then let's continue, okay? Because at the end of the day, Wuthering Waves 1.0 is basically a prologue, right? It is the introduction to the world, right? You're dropped into this world, you're the rover, and you have a mysterious past. You're awakened, you find out, because Wuthering Waves has the classic, oh, I'm an amnesiac trope, right? A trope that is in 90% of gacha games, mind you. It's not great. It's fine. It is what it is. We've all seen it. We've all played the games that have it. We think nothing of it, okay? So, from my understanding, a lot of people think that Wuthering Waves 1.0 is terrible. Extremely bad. However, I do think, while it is not great, it is, like I said, it's not that bad. Not as bad as the internet would have you believe. Right. Now, I do think there is an asterisk there. A caveat, if you will. See, I am starting, or when I did start a couple weeks ago, it is in patch, when I started 3.1, currently in patch 3.2, okay? If you played Wuthering Waves when 1.0 dropped, when the game launched, I can understand fully why you would think it was terrible. From my understanding, the game back then was just overall a mess and just not great, right? However, there's been a lot of things added, or a lot of quality of life added, I guess I should say, since that point, that make it super easy for new players like me to really slot in, right? One of those things, that I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here, right? One of those things is flight. I believe, if I'm remembering my facts correctly, flight wasn't introduced in Wuthering Waves until somewhere in 2.0, maybe in 2.0 exactly. However, if you are making a fresh account and you are starting the game again today in 2026, you will have access to flight within like an hour or two, maybe, right? And that makes the exploration and just generally getting around feel much more fun, right? Much more simple, right? It's honestly really nice. It's extremely fun. The flight is fun. It's been one of my favorite parts of the game so far, honestly, is just flying around. So already, that's a huge leap for the quality of life in the 1.0 patch, right? But a lot of you guys will be like, it's not about that, it's not about that, it's about the story. The story is a slog to get through. And you are correct. However, it depends on what you're comparing it to. if you say the story is a slog to get through, I would generally, and for the 1.0 patch, especially near the beginning, I could agree to that. Generally speaking, it's not the most interesting to start out necessarily. Once the excitement of starting a new game dies down, then you really, it's a lot of yapping. Not that I have much to talk about complaining about yapping. I play Honkai Star Rail and, Honkai Yap Rail, so. But nonetheless, there is a lot of yapping in 1.0, a lot of exposition, a lot of this, that. It's just introducing the world, basically. Right? And I think you have to try to understand that introducing a world is not easy, especially not in a gacha game where it's like, okay, here's this huge world, they have to account for you having no experience with this type of game, here's 10,000 tutorials, here's this huge world, and we're going to do it all now, and then next, and now here's this tutorial, and now we're going to introduce you to this part of the story. And a lot of things, especially at least in this first patch, are kind of explained to you like you're 5, basically, something will happen, and then that next thing will be explained to you immediately, and then sometimes it might be explained a second time, right? And it's not great. However, if I'm being completely honest, it's not that much worse than any other prologue I've ever been through. For your guys' reference, I have played the gacha games that I have played up to this point, that I have played past the prologue in, would be the big 3 Hoyo games, that being Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and Zenless Zone Zero, all of which I have massive amounts of experience in. Obviously, Wuthering Waves, recently. Here we are. Chaos Zero Nightmare, and Path to Nowhere would be the other 2 outstanding ones. And also, way back years ago, I think I played a game called Dislight, too. Alright, if you know that one, then I'm sorry. But, so I've played through at least quite a handful. I'm not a veteran by any means compared to some people that they've played and they've gotten the end game in all these different games. They've played plus 15, plus 20 different gacha games in their time, Not at all. However, I have been around the block at least once or twice when it comes to these prologues. And they're kind of almost always a slog. Like, this wasn't much worse than any other of the previous games I mentioned, with maybe the exception of Honkai Star Rail, which I feel like Bellabog was actually a pretty good introductory patch, to be honest. Right? And even then, it's not anything amazing. It's just okay, Other than the boss fight. The boss fight was fantastic. Cocolia boss fight goated. But that's beside the point. We're not talking about that right now. Because, if anything, the boss fight in 1.0 and the 1.0 version of Wuthering Waves is also still really good. Right? There is some genuinely good moments in Wuthering Waves 1.0. However, I feel like people get really stuck on the amount of yapping and the tutorials, right? And that is perfectly fair. However, like I said, that is kind of the case for every other gacha game I've played. It is not that much worse. Like, I'm trying to think of the things that are actively worse, right? And maybe some of the exposition is pretty bad. I don't think all the voice acting of all the characters I've come across so far are amazing, but most of them haven't been bad. Right. I know a lot of people call Yang Yang Yap Yap, right? And that's, it's fair enough, because often Yang Yang is just, and this fact about the world, and this fact about the world, and this fact about the world. And if you don't like that kind of thing, then obviously, you're gonna end up not liking Yang Yang. I don't mind Yang Yang. I don't think she's nearly as bad as someone like Paimon from Genshin at the beginning of Genshin Impact. Honestly, is much worse. Paimon, you'll see a dragon, and Paimon be like, "Oh my god, did you see that dragon?" And it's oh my god. Right. I'm actively trying to think of things that are significantly worse than any of the other games I've played. And I'm drawing a blank, mainly. Maybe the story, right? Because like I said, I think if I were to go through the games I played, right, let's just do the Hoyo games, because those ones are closest to being similar to Wuthering Waves, okay? Genshin, the first 1.0 patch, and Mondstadt, it's got nice vibes, but it's still rather boring. It's still bland. It's still probably the worst part of the story. Right? A lot of people might look back fondly on it now, but let's be honest, that's nostalgia, right? If they tell you it was good, it's probably mostly nostalgia, right? Because that game has been out for 6+ years now, 6.5 years, something like that. Right. Honkai Star Rail, which I think is the strongest addition to this for at least a 1.0 patch. Like, it still is a solid story, but it's nothing past that. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's just good, you know? Bellobog and all that was good. Xenosun Zero, I'm gonna be so real, I barely remember what it was about. If I'm remembering correctly, it wasn't, like, atrocious, but it wasn't super entertaining either. Maybe slightly below average. Right. Maybe this game in that scaling is somewhere like it's below average at the very beginning, for sure. There's a lot of exposition, a lot of yapping. I know there's one part where you're like going to the library and you're supposed to solve this puzzle, and the rover is sitting there talking to themselves, explaining each and every single part of the puzzle as you do it. Right? So it'll be like, there's this square block right here. We should put it in the square hole. And the next, we should take the square block out of the square hole, and we should put it in this other square hole. It's like, oh, but what should we do next? Well, I'll tell you what we should do next. We should take this. I mean, you get the point, right? There is a part at the beginning that you're going into a library, and it's basically that. You're doing a puzzle, and Rover, throughout the entire puzzle, is like, and then you do this, and then do this, and then do this, making sure that you do not, for the life of you, ever get lost, and that you should not struggle with that puzzle at all, because they are just like, do this next. And that's not great, right? However, I do think later on, it really catches its footing, especially near the climax of it. I think the boss fight, the climax of 1.0, the boss fight with the, where, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name, but the boss fight, it's against the Crown Maker, or the Crown Slayer. I'm so sorry. The lore nerds are gonna come for my head. That's fine. That boss fight was really good, and it was fun, and seeing, getting, the new, Rover powers, and getting Havoc Rover in that moment was extremely cool. And I think everything leading up to that boss fight, where you're grabbing on to these platforms and you're pulling them towards you, or you're pulling yourself towards them rather. I think all that was actually pretty fun, and I think the story presentation is actually kind of above average a little bit. They're not just standing around. The camera actually, moves around. Whenever you're walking, you're not just walking from place to place. Like I said, you'll get on a platform and you'll pull the next rock towards you, and you'll pull rocks down on enemies. At least in this 1.0 patch, that's what they did, right? And it's actually pretty cool, and it's pretty fun, and it's complemented very well by the fact that the combat in this game is extremely fun, right? The combat in this game is extremely fun, which is, I feel like, almost to its detriment sometimes, if that makes any sense. Because sometimes, you'll sit and you'll be listening to someone yap for 10+ minutes, and it's been multiple times now, I have caught myself thinking, damn, I sure do hope I get to fight something after this. But that's mostly because the game has fun combat that I'm thinking that. So it's both, a positive for the game and the negative, because anytime there's a bunch of yap, sometimes it can be like, damn, I really want to fight something. This game has good combat. But also, take it as you will, I guess. The story itself right now is nothing extremely special. I did like the moment in the village with Scar, where it was talking about, it had like, they told it through like the kids book style, where he had manipulated, or I guess we don't know for a fact if it was him or not, but someone had manipulated the village, and they were sacrificing each other to get their wishes granted. And I thought that was super interesting. I thought all the yap before that, obviously, it is what it is, It's world building. Like I said, it's not much worse than any other game I have played, or any other gacha game I have played, in terms of its prologue and its world building. It's just a lot of yapping, a lot to keep track of. A lot of it will, honestly, for most people, I feel like, probably go over your head for now. You'll probably read it, but you'll zone out until it becomes important during some sort of, like, entertaining time, right? Like, later when the story starts to be better told, and the lore that you learned becomes relevant, you'll be like, oh yeah, they did say that. But for the most part, I feel like now a lot of it is just, it'll say something and you'll be like, oh, okay. It is what it is, right? But that part was interesting. Going up to fight the boss, that was cool. The boss fight itself was extremely cool. And overall, I thought it was okay, you know? I thought the boss fight and the climax and like the maybe like 20 minutes up leading up to the half an hour maybe leading up to the boss fight, the build up to it, and then the boss fight itself and getting Rover's powers, I think all that was good. That was good. Okay. Everything before that, the stuff with the village, that was actually kind of interesting too. And then everything, I'll admit that everything in between that is just kind of just nonstop yap. Kind of just nonstop, here's this stuff about the world, fact about the world, fact about the world. And it's not great, but it's not any worse than anything else, like I said. Right. I think where the game really shines right now is in the quality of life. Because as a new player, as someone who didn't really play this game before, right? Like I said, after 2 hours, taught here. After like 2 hours, you have access to flight. You can just do the event right quick and you'll have your wings and you can fly. That is extremely fun. That is so fun. The flight is fun. I already went over that, so I'm not going to dwell on it now, but it's fun. Okay. You get access to a banner with all the 1.0 characters, of which available is Shorekeeper, which if you play the game, is the character everyone will tell you pull Shorekeeper. Even to this day, she's busted. Blah, 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 right? She's one of the only dedicated healers. She's busted. She's great. Just pull the Shorekeeper. And you can get a hyper meta character just like that. Or you can do what I did, which is the incorrect decision. And you can pull your favorite. You can pull your favorite waifu, I guess. I love Camellia, so I pulled Camellia because I don't really care about bricking my account. That's a problem for the future. Alright, I loved her. I loved her in the trailers. I love her design. So far, I've loved everything about her, so I pulled her. And I am having a blast. I do not regret a single second of it. Oh. I do not regret a single second of it so far. Okay, maybe I will in the future, but as of now, as of recording this video, I have completed up to completing patch 1.1, and I'm about to start patch 1.3, right? Because I wanted to make this video while it was relatively fresh in my mind. I was originally going to bundle my thoughts with the gameplay video I'm going to release. However, I thought then that video would turn out to be too long, because I actually have quite a bit to say about Wuthering Waves 1.0. But I think the quality of life really makes this game way better, because right off the bat, you can get a good character. You can even get a good weapon, right? There's also a guaranteed weapon banner where you can get yourself a guaranteed 5-star weapon. Like I said, you can get any of the 1.0 characters. I recommend, honestly, just choosing who you want, because at the end of the day, if you don't get the character you want, you might end up not wanting to play the game because of it. All of this just to say, I feel like not very concisely. I'm sorry, I don't follow a script anytime I've ever tried. It's not worked out. It's been worse than this. But all of this to say, it's still not great. However, it does not deserve the bad reputation that it has. Okay, I think the prologue, the 1.0 patches of, say, Zenless Zone Zero, Genshin, and a lot of other games are going to be relatively equally as slow, right? Like, I can't say I've ever truly, like, absolutely been in love with a 1.0 patch of one of these games. So I kind of don't understand, other than if you have performance issues, which I can't speak on because I have not had any performance issues. I have heard of people having performance issues with the game now, and especially back then. I know I heard a lot about the game being, for some people, nearly unplayable. Right, I can't speak on it now. I can't speak on it then. Right now, I've yet to have any performance issues. We'll see how that persists, right? But I've not had any of that, so I can only speak from my experience. Performance issues aside, if you have those, obviously that's a completely valid complaint. If the game is unplayable for you, it's unplayable for you, and that's a problem. The story itself, like I said, not much worse than anything else. Same amount of yapping as, you know, I play Honkai Star Rail a lot. I have literally sat through what, like 2-hour monologues, you know? So I guess maybe I'm just used to it, possibly. But it's really not. It's not that bad. It's not that much worse than anything else I've ever played. If I'm being honest. I don't understand why the reputation for 1.0 is as bad as it is. It is fine to say it is the weakest patch, because I believe that that's probably true. I've not played too much after it yet. However, that would make sense. If you say it's the weakest patch, however, people don't ever leave it at, oh, it's the weakest patch. They're like, it's rough, it's terrible. Honestly, you could skip it. You can just, you know, 1.0. It's not that bad, right? I think it does a okay-ish maybe job laying the groundwork, right? There's a lot of really nice quality of life, and yeah, I mean, that's about it. That's really all I have to say. I'm sorry if I repeated myself. This is my first time doing a video like this. So if I did repeat myself, I am sorry. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you come and watch me play the game live on Twitch. My Twitch streams will always be way ahead of my YouTube, simply because it takes me time to edit. So if you want to know exactly where I'm at in the story, then you have to follow me live on Twitch, and you can come watch me. We mostly do major story patches on the weekend, but I do play a little bit throughout the week. I also do reactions live as well. But other than that, make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed. Let me know what you think about this type of video. I just really wanted to give my in-depth thoughts on this 1.0 patch. Separate from the gameplay video I'll release, because that video is already like 45 minutes long. It's basically just stream highlights, to be fair. But I wanted to make this separately because I didn't want to bundle them together and make that video too long. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this. So let me know what are your thoughts on 1.0, right? Am I crazy? Am I too patient? You know? Is it worse than I'm giving it credit for? And am I preaching to the choir maybe? And I'm just in all the wrong circles, and it's actually not as bad as it's been presented to me this entire time anyway. You guys have a good rest of your day.